This week at the movies, he robs from the rich to give to the poor. If there's a sequel, maybe he'll shore up the middle class.
Russell Crowe stars in director Ridley Scott's Robin Hood.
What we ask for is liberty. Liberty by law.
Also coming up this week...
Another week, two more romantic comedies, and Miracle of Miracles, these two are actually worth talking about. First, Amanda Seyfried looks for love in Letters to Juliet.
You think he's still out there?
Yeah.
And rappers turned actors Queen Latifah and Common fall for each other in Just Right.
Stop playing.
Plus, from Thelma and Louise to Gladiator, we make our picks for the most over and underrated movies of director Ridley Scott's career.
Robin Longstride, also known as Robin of the Hood.
For the crimes of incitement to cause unrest, I declare him to be an outlaw!
All who shelter him, their lives shall be taken on sight. Nail, please.
Men in tunics, arrows flying, it must be Robin Hood. I'm A.O. Scott of the New York Times.
And I'm Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune.
He's a merry medieval outlaw who's been played by Errol Flynn, Sean Connery, and Kevin Costner. He's been the subject of a Mel Brooks spoof and a Bugs Bunny cartoon. But the latest Robin Hood is a very serious guy. His real name is Robin Longstride, and he's played by Russell Crowe as a soldier on his way home from the Crusades. Here he pauses to storm a French castle in old-school action movie style. The director is Ridley Scott, and the story may remind you more than a little of Scott's Gladiator. Russell Crowe, once again, is an honest fighting man pushed to the limit by corrupt and cruel political authorities.
The laws of this land enslave people to its king. A king who demands loyalty but offers nothing in return.
The king's plan is to raise taxes and trample the rights of the people. The political scheming is punctuated by some romantic comedy banter when Robin shows up at the estate of Lady Marian, that's Cate Blanchett, pretending to be her deceased husband.
If the aim is deception, should you not be addressing me as my husband or my dear?
Don't be ridiculous. Well, are you coming or not?
Ask me nicely.
Please, dear husband, will you share my chamber?
Robin Hood ends with big battles and rousing speeches. It is a Ridley Scott movie. But by then, the bloated themes and overloaded plot have taken a lot of the fun out of the picture. But for the first hour or so, it is fun. Crowe has a little mischief behind all that glowering, and the movie has a grungy, leathery period feel. Some good fights and some broad, blustery, macho jokes. You could do worse, and if you don't expect too much, this is worth renting.
No, I think it's worth seeing. I think I had the opposite experience from in the first hour. You say the first hour worked for you,
yeah,
and then it started tailing.
And then as it starts coming together and the story is made clear and the themes are all knit together, that's when it started falling apart.
No, first 45 minutes, pure chaos. It's like one big, messy, completely disorienting action sequence, not even particularly well staged. Well, of course, you know, so you like disorientation. I think it's completely different by the time you get to an action sequence like this one from the climax. Now, this kind of spectacle, which is heavy on the CGI, as was Gladiator, may or may not be to your taste, but I think by the end of this picture, Ridley Scott's actually rediscovered at least how to put together a coherent action sequence, and by then, you're into the story. The first 45 minutes,
well, no,
what is even going on?
But by then, I've lost interest in the story because it's become so bombastic and so bloated and such a retread of Gladiator, actually.
You think so?
Down to just the villains and the way they behave and the whole revenge thing. And also, I think that giving this Robin Hood this backstory that this movie does, this is kind of a prequel in a way. He's not out there running around in green tights and a tunic, shooting arrows and stealing from the Sheriff of Nottingham. This is sort of how he became Robin and Marian the early years. And I just think that the history and the politics and the themes, it's all just too much, and some of that kind of grimy, grungy chaos that I really liked at the beginning is gone at the end.
No, I think once these two characters actually meet, then the story calms down. Scott knows how to focus the action, and we'll talk more about Ridley Scott's career, which is really kind of remarkably varied. If you look at, it's not just Gladiator. You look at Alien, to Thelma and Louise, you know, a
Blade
very
Runner.
wide. Yes.
No, there's a lot to talk about
We'll
there.
talk more about that in a bit.
There's no denying the man's skill.
No,
I just think that this is not the greatest application.
It's not great, but I put this as a solid hit like American Gangster.
Coming up next, Amanda Seyfried is everywhere this year. Now she's gone to Italy in the romantic comedy Letters to Juliet.
And later, Queen Latifah and Common play one-on-one in Just Right.
With all due respect, Miss Ella, you don't want none of this.
May I ask which one of you wrote this letter to my grandmother?
I wrote that.
What were you thinking?
She deserved an answer. Excuse me, Claire? Hi, my name is Sophie.
Juliet.
So you've come to find your Lorenzo.
Yes.
Of course, a card or letter is just too simple.
May I come with you?
Yes, of course.
Italy is beautiful. Amanda Seyfried is beautiful. Vanessa Redgrave is beautiful. Shakespeare is beautiful. Love is beautiful. Am I getting on your nerves? In that case, you may not be won over by Letters to Juliet, which mixes up all of this beauty into a neat little romantic package. Seyfried is Sophie, a fact-checker at The New Yorker, who accompanies her restaurateur fiancé to Verona, the hometown of Shakespeare's most famously star-crossed lovers. There, she meets a group of women who answer the notes left for the fictitious Juliet Capulet by various lovelorn ladies.
They come from all over the world every day.
But taking their letters, is that not like taking pennies from a wishing well?
How else can we give them answers?
Oh my God, so you write all of them back.
Then Sophie meets Claire, played by Vanessa Redgrave, who has arrived in Verona to look for her long-lost first love. Claire brings along her skeptical grandson, Charlie, and of course, he and Sophie can't stand each other.
Well, your grandson found me, actually.
You did?
Right, well, but the thing is,
He thought that you might like to meet me.
Uncharacteristically thoughtful, you dear.
Yes, well, under the circumstances, it seemed a little churlish not to meet the woman responsible for this voyage of lunacy.
You know what's going to happen next, and in fact, there's nothing in Letters to Juliet, directed by Gary Winnick, that you won't see coming from a mile away. There's also no memorable dialogue, no especially vivid characters, not much dramatic tension, just a warm, sweet bath in easy, not quite believable sentiment.
Do you believe in destiny?
Do you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's destiny that I'm here right now.
This movie is successful without being all that good. It does exactly what it sets out to do, and I think it will be a huge hit and make Amanda Seyfried a full-fledged movie star. But the bar of romance is set so low these days that I really can't say more than rent it.
Tony, that was a beautiful review, but I say see it. I think you're being
Okay.
too hard on it. You should be rethinking some of the stuff we've had to sit through lately, just in the good name of telling people what a good romantic comedy like this one is actually constitutes. I feel that yes, predictability is a factor here.
It's part of the genre, yeah.
Yeah, but I just felt, I guess because Vanessa Redgrave's role is so much larger than any of the advertisements sort of would have you believe. She's really 51% of this picture, and her storyline is why this movie works. And I think she and Seyfried actually make this thing, even if the material were worse, and I think it's pretty solid material, they make it worth seeing.
I think it's pretty thin material. I agree with you that they are good, and they both, bring a lot of emotion into some fairly simple scenes together. I mean, they're a way that just, Vanessa Redgrave sighs and Amanda Seyfried tears up, and it's nice to see. But
the movie is not like that. It's not that sappy.
Name me one memorable scene or line of dialogue that you took away from this movie that stayed in your head.
I think all the scenes where Redgrave is visiting these people who may or may not be the long-lost boyfriend from the 1950s, and you really get a sense of kind of accumulating disappointment. Those scenes really, really work, and that's why you care about the characters a little bit. It's modest, it's slight, but I felt like it was enough to take.
I wanted to care about them more, and I didn't care about them quite enough.
Well, coming up next, we just disagreed on one romantic comedy. Can Queen Latifah and Common bring us together for Just Right?
And on next week's show,
the best and worst movies of the year so far. From action to comedies to dramas.
We've got our scorecards ready
for our mid-year intermission.
Next week at the movies.
Such a great time tonight.
Oh, me too. Next time maybe we could catch a movie or just
just got out of a relationship, you know?
She's not emotionally ready.
Exactly. I mean, you know, we can still hang out. Yeah, I mean, you're good people.
The new romantic comedy Just Right stars Queen Latifah, and you should know going in that it's a mixed blessing seeing such a brassy, charismatic screen presence confined to her most conventionally virtuous leading role to date. The whole movie's like that, corny in a low-keyed way, but you know what? It's also warm-hearted and enjoyable.
I can't find a button to put gas in this thing, man. This is getting ridiculous. Excuse me, miss.
Leslie.
Let me call you back. Leslie, right?
Yeah, Leslie Wright with a W. These cars usually don't have a button, and you might want to spin it around.
At the gas pump one night, a physical therapist and basketball fan named Leslie, played by Latifah, has a chance meeting with Scott McKnight, the star player of the New Jersey Nets. He's played by the rapper-turned-actor Common. At his birthday party, the NBA superstar only has eyes for Leslie's gold-digging friend, played by Paula Patton.
So you two live together?
Temporarily.
It's a long story.
How can I get in touch with you?
Oh, Scott. It's Scott, right? I'm sorry. I've tried the whole dating a ball player thing, and it's not for me. But it was really nice talking to you.
And our heroine is once again sidelined when it comes to love. Then the athlete blows out his knee, and Leslie is the one who puts him through a tough 2-month regimen to get in shape for the playoffs.
I have an NBA player's career in my hands.
You really think you could get me back?
Yeah, but you're gonna hate me by the time I'm through with you.
Who knows? I might be grading on a curve since rom-coms have given us some of our darkest hours of our lives recently. But I like the people on the screen, and enough goes right with Just Right to say, see it. I liked it. And
I'm just a little dumbfounded because you've recommended 2 romantic comedies in one show.
Also, I'd like to go back and say,
shifted
no, I know. And you know, on second thought, I really like The Bounty Hunter,
okay,
too.
let's not even go there. But I say see it, too. I like this movie a lot. I like it better than, for example, Letters to Juliet, which I think is very sort of slick and a little phony. This one's a little clumsier, a little cornier, but it has such warmth and just the sense of the emotional dynamic between the characters, really among the 3 main characters in the triangle, the gold digger friend and Queen Latifah's character, and this basketball player is really beautifully and sensitively
Here's the one thing
handled.
I think these 2 films have in common, and I think it's why I like them both.
Yeah.
Usually in this genre, we're so used to kind of very pushy slapstick and kind of shrill overstatement and really just more of that kind of outsized comedy, and these films, the temperature of these films is a lot cooler, but not cold. It feels like these are actual human beings up there, and I also like in Just Right, you're dealing with decent human beings trying to do the right thing, and that's not where most of these comedies these days start from.
And even as you said before, it's like there is the right woman and the wrong woman for this guy, but it's not like one of them is a monster, and you really experience his dilemma a little bit, and all of that is just really nicely and
I guess my question,
and
Tony,
generously done.
I hope, Tony, that audiences aren't going to find this movie too low key for their taste. I hope there's room in the marketplace for something about this size.
I think people are going to go for it.
Hope so. Next movie. The independent film scene is broad enough to include everything from a mainstream Oscar-winning comedy like Little Miss Sunshine to a micro-budget and, I think, riveting affair like Daddy Longlegs. This is no easy sit. It comes from Benny and Josh Safdie, brothers whose real-life relationship with their own unreliable father inspired this Manhattan story.
Look, man, I'm playing with my kids. You asked for money. We don't have any. I'm playing with my kids. So just a little distance, all right? Good luck.
I've been sitting here on my ass all day.
Well, I've been on my feet all day, man.
Oh, get it quick.
That's Ronald Bronstein doing handstands as Lenny, a movie theater projectionist whose annual anxiety-provoking 2-week stint with his sons provides the movie with its storyline. Now imagine Kramer from Seinfeld as a divorced father of 2, and you'll get a hint anyway of what you're in for with this picture, which is available on demand. At one point, Lenny, unable to reconcile his child care challenges with his work schedule, gives his kids a heavy dose of sedatives so they'll sleep through his work shift. It's right about then that Daddy Longlegs threatens to turn into a full-fledged nightmare, but it's a comic nightmare shot in a busy but attentive handheld style. The film feels honest, lived in, and true, and if you have the stomach for it, it is well worth seeing.
I think
Good
so
film.
too. I mean, this guy is tough to deal with, and I think people can be forgiven maybe for not wanting to spend 90 minutes in his company. But I love this kind of small scale, personal, as you say, really attentive filmmaking. So you really get inside this character's world and his own confusion and insecurity and anxiety, and you really get to every corner of his mind. And you also see what he looks like to his kids, who are kind of horrified by him half the time and totally enraptured and adoring.
It's heart-rending, but it wouldn't be heart-rending if it weren't authentic in its texture. Right. I like this.
And me too, because I mean, this is also it's very personal. I mean, the guys who made this movie, they love their father, and they're also presenting him as he really was, kind of.
Right. I think it also makes us both feel better about our own work as parents. So.
Well, there's certainly that. Coming up next, he made Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise, and Gladiator, among many others. We give our picks for the most over and underrated movies from director Ridley Scott.
I have only one more life to take. Take it now.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
That was a scene from Gladiator, the Best Picture Oscar-winning movie directed by Ridley Scott and starring Russell Crowe. We reviewed their new film Robin Hood earlier on this show, so in the over-under this week, we decided to name our picks for the most over and underrated movies directed by Mr. Ridley Scott. No relation.
No. Tony, a little soothsayer, told me that you might think that, I don't know, the clip we just saw had something to do with your overrated feelings.
Yes, I am not entertained. Okay. Yeah, you know, Gladiator, I was a bit dismayed, frankly, when it won Best Picture, when it did. I mean, it's, you know, it's again, I mean, Ridley Scott is a good craftsman. It's a well-made action movie. It's got, you know, a lot of story and a lot of characters. But just the mood, to me, was so heavy and glowering and angry and vengeful that I did not find it entertaining. I prefer, when it comes to swords and sandals and togas, I need a little more camp than Ridley Scott could bring to this.
Well,
yes.
I always need Spartacus, but not every film can be Spartacus like that. And I like that film better than that. I guess my overrated picture for Mr. Scott is Thelma and Louise, and it's not because it's not a good script, and I think the casting really is quite marvelous. I think Ridley Scott's training in commercials has sometimes gets him into trouble as a visual stylist. I think that film is pictorially kind of overblown and frankly just a little too fussy and beautiful and the kind of the wrong vibe for that story. I just wanted a lower budget, kind of grittier story.
So you feel like his approach, which is very big and very slick, doesn't quite work with
that one
material.
Yeah, with that one.
It's interesting because my pick for underrated Ridley Scott movie is a much sort of smaller, more character-based movie, and it's one that, frankly, I underrated when I reviewed it when it came out. It's Matchstick Men with Nicolas Cage, Sam Rockwell, Alison Lohman, a story about a con man played by Cage, who's wonderful, who meets a young woman who could be his estranged daughter, and it's a very tricky, clever movie, and it's nice actually in that case to see Scott not working on the kind of the big, epic, grand action movie scale, but with characters and interesting.
So
actors.
why didn't audiences find that, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if it was the cast or the smartest. Sometimes small movies, even by big directors, have a hard time making their way. What is your pick for underrated?
in fact, Ridley Scott's first feature, The Duelists, 1979, did not, you know, had a hard time finding an audience. He shot that for $900,000. It's an adaptation of a Joseph Conrad story. It's got very peculiar casting in that you have American actors, Harvey Keitel and Keith Carradine, both frankly struggling to kind of fit in with this largely British cast with, you know, splendid cast of character actors, as these two characters in the Napoleonic era fight a series of grueling duels.
That is a good one.
It's a good picture.
People should check that out.
It's beautiful, but it's sort of the right size, and it's very different from Robin Hood.
Coming up next, my 3 to see, which is 100% blockbuster free.
Ooh! Plus, we discuss the career of Russell Crowe on our website. Just go to atthemoviestv.com and click on Web Exclusives.
Closed captioning for At the Movies is sponsored by Hotel provided by Park Hyatt Chicago, Chicago's award-winning hotel and luxury dining experience, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile on Water Tower Square.
The season of summer blockbusters is here, and you're probably going to see at least some of those anyway. So in my 3 to see this week, I've picked out some less hyped movies. Number 3 is Casino Jack and the United States of Money, Alex Gibney's documentary about Republican fixer Jack Abramoff, a tale of greed and corruption that unfolds like a real-life film noir. Number 2 is Babies. Who's a good movie? Who's the cutest little documentary in the world? And number 1 is At Long Last, a romantic comedy with some real feeling and tons of charm. It's Just Right, starring Common and Queen Latifah.
That's it for now. We'll leave you with a recap of this week's show. And now you must join the discussion by following us on Twitter and on Facebook. And why don't you give us your favorite Ridley Scott movies?
And join us next week for our mid-year intermission, when we'll name the best and worst movies of the year so far. Until then, we'll be at the movies.